you doing, Doc?
I need fuel.
Give me fuel, take a fly, ship me trace it out of sight.
Now, here are your hosts, John Eddie Jr. and Tom Tuttle.
Welcome back to Fantasy Fuel. Last week, we did our first ever rankings. We talked about our running backs. And of course, not even a week later, we have to already maybe possibly update our rankings. Because as Network has told us, he's in our chat until I get my stuff squared around and I have better internet than what is being offered to me currently. You're not going to be able to get Network live. It's just me and Tom. Sorry, you got to put up with just the two of us. But until then, he's in chat form. So I'll get some comments from him as we go along. And he was the first to bring me the story of Dalvin Cook possibly pulling a Melvin Gordon. So here we are. We had Dalvin Cook. I know Network had Dalvin Cook at like number 3, and I think I had him down like 8.
5.
You were at 5. Okay, so we all had him top 10-ish. But here we go. Dalvin Cook, according to Adam Schefter, will no longer participate in any team-related activities until and unless he receives a reasonable deal, a source said Monday. He's out, a source told ESPN. Without a reasonable extension, he will not be showing up for camp or beyond. Well, here we go.
I guess we'll see when camp starts, because that's when I'll adjust my rankings.
Of
because
course.
it will make a big difference.
Yes.
Because the way things are now, it started with Le'Veon, the Melvin Gordon last year, now with Cook, they all sat out at least a little bit of the time. And I have to imagine he's going to sit out, especially if he doesn't get the money that he wants. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I'm going to bet that it does. So that's going to affect my rankings big time.
Well, it should, because we took some chances on Melvin Gordon last year, and it didn't pan out. And anybody that took a chance on Le'Veon Bell, hopefully returning at any point during the season he took off, guess what? Didn't work out. So if Dalvin Cook is going to do the same thing, don't touch him in standard, non-dynasty leagues. I don't know what else to say. If he's going to do this and they're not going to pay him, which I don't know why they wouldn't, because it's not even saying like he wants to be paid top 2 money or anything. He just said reasonable offer. And I don't know what reasonable is to Dalvin Cook and his agent.
Yeah, it depends on what he thinks. Yeah.
But that's what we've got for running back news. So I guess we're just going to have to roll and do our wide receivers this week, because nobody's holding out in wide receiver land that I know of yet. So we'll roll with our rankings. And, of course, everybody has Michael Thomas at number 1. It's not true. Like there's anybody out there that commands so many targets and has the feature role in an offense like Michael Thomas does. Not like last week when I went out on a little bit of a limb and talked about Saquon being my number 1 guy at the end of the year. I can't see anybody else outstaging Michael Thomas this coming year. So number 1 for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question it's going to be Michael Thomas. I mean, everybody else on this list has to perform at a ridiculous rate to even get to that point. I personally, and that's why I have him at number 2, is DeAndre Hopkins. Personally, I think he's the only one that has a chance to dethrone Michael Thomas in the number 1 spot, because he is the most talented wide receiver in the league, in my opinion. And I don't see much of a difference between him and between Watson and Murray.
Yes, Kyler.
So to me, DeAndre Hopkins can still do everything that he's been doing throughout his entire career, and I think there's a chance that he could dethrone him. But at this point, there's just no reason for you even to take it that far. And I know you guys got your rankings differently, and you don't have Hopkins at number 2, but that's why I put him there, because he's, frankly, to me, he's the only one that has a chance to pass him up.
And you may not be wrong in that aspect. I'm just going by well, DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to have a bit of a slow start. It could turn into gangbusters after a few weeks, and he could dethrone Michael Thomas. But it's not like Hopkins has been a 140 catch type of guy where you think he's going to get that many receptions. He has a little bit more deeper catches, so he gets more yardage on less catches when it comes to, PPR leagues. So that's the reason I got him a little bit lower. I have him at 4. I believe Network has him at 5. So obviously DeAndre Hopkins is still one of the best guys in the league. And if that offense tailors to DeAndre Hopkins, I would not be surprised if he was battling Michael Thomas at the end of the year. I just don't think it'll be this year, but we'll see.
Sure.
So number 2 for Network and I, we both have Devontae Adams. He's almost like Michael Thomas on that kind of an offense where there's not much else. I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is going to be down on these lists somewhere, but there really isn't much else on either of those offenses for wide receivers for anybody to be scared of it, and Devontae Adams will be another target monster. I know you've got him at 4, so it's not like he's that far off.
Yeah, and a lot of people are putting him at 2, maybe 3 for some people. The reason I have him at 4, and it's not that far off, like you said, but I don't know. I don't trust in Aaron Rodgers as much as I used to, and I think that's probably the biggest reason I don't have him at number 2. Normally, it would be almost a shoe-in, but something going on with Rodgers that I just can't put my finger on, it's a more of a feeling ranking where I put him down a little bit just because of that.
And the only reason I didn't really take that into much consideration is because Devontae Adams, even with absolute horrible quarterbacks that replaced Aaron Rodgers the year he was hurt a couple years ago, he still did fine and had a bunch of targets. So even a bad Aaron Rodgers is going to target him a lot. And as long as he can go up and get it, I'm not too worried about Devontae. And obviously you're not too worried about him either. Put him at 4. And guess what? All 3 of us have Julio at number 3. So we all agree he's there. He's just never going to be the number 1 overall again in a PPR because he is a yardage dude and touchdown reliant to get him back up into the top, 2 or 3 players. So he's never going to have 120 catches. He gets, 90 to 100 catches and you're good. But there's always that just in the back of your mind, could Julio get hurt and, have a few weeks where, maybe a hamstring or an ankle or something is bothering him. And, I guess, he's questionable this week, because we all know questionable doesn't mean anything anymore. It could mean probable. It could mean he's barely able to stand up in the locker room. But Julio Jones tends to play through these things. But every once in a while, he'll surprise you and, game time inactive, like an hour before the game. And you're like, oh, crap, what do I do? And then you keep him out the next week, and then he goes off and has 300 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. You're like, well, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Julio's one of them guys, if he is healthy and he's playing, he's one of them guys that's very consistent, and he can still have a huge game. So the consistency doesn't bother his huge game ability, and his huge game ability doesn't take anything away from his low end. His low end is still not going to be terrible. It's still going to be something. He's not going to be one of them boom or bust kind of players. It's more of a average or boom type of player. It's really, that's why you got to love Julio, because when he's on the field and he's 100%, he's going to give you at least, a starting caliber wide receiver for fantasy football.
For sure. Let's move on to our number 5. I mean, you and I, Tom and me. Number 5, Mike Evans. And I was like, wait, where is he on the list over here? Did Network forget Mike Evans? No, he just has him all the way down at number 13. Now, I'm hoping Network is still in the chat, because I'd like a little bit of an explanation if he can type it in there for us, because I need to know why he's so far down on his list. We both obviously think that Mike Evans is going to be the guy in Tampa Bay. Right. Yes, Brady is a little unknown because he's not in Belichick's offense, but I think with the weapons that he has now, he is going to just feast with some of these guys. That offense is going to have plenty. And here's what Network's saying. Brady, Godwin, Gronk, yes, but Gronk is a wild card right now. I don't think Gronk is going to be anything close to what Gronk used to be. He'll be fine. He'll be kind of a forgotten about guy because of Godwin, Evans, still a little bit of O.J. Howard, sprinkle in some of these running backs here and there. So Gronk will still be fine, but he doesn't have to rely on Gronk, so he's probably not going to rely on Gronk. He's just a safety valve. And yes, Brady has never had a wide receiver quite like Mike Evans. Yes, he had Randy Moss, but Randy Moss is a special guy that nobody is ever going to duplicate. But Mike Evans is just he's a guy you can rely on. And I think hopefully for fantasy football purposes, Mike Evans will be the guy that Tom Brady will just be like, you know what? I'm feeling it and I'm going to him. Because we saw what Jameis Winston did. He was just chucking it up, and Mike Evans was coming down with it until he got hurt. So we love Mike Evans. Network not so sure. He likes him, but he's never going to be able to draft him if he thinks he's going to fall to the 13th available wide receiver. So
I got a question. Where is Chris Godwin on his list?
He's at number 7 on his list. So
he thinks he's one of the people that thinks Godwin's going to be better than Mike Evans. A lot of people out there right now saying that, and I can't not agree with it to a certain extent, but to me, Mike Evans is a better receiver. And I think when it comes down to connectability with Tom Brady, I think Tom Brady and Mike Evans are going to have a very good rapport. And I'm just not certain what Chris Godwin's going to do with Tom Brady. And like you said, there are a lot of weapons on that team, and we're going to see. But I think Tom Brady 100% is playing this year to prove that it wasn't Belichick and then that was him. So it's going to be interesting. We could see 2 wide receivers in the top 5 from one team if Tom Brady just goes gangbusters and just proves everybody wrong that it was Belichick. And if he does that, I'll have to say it. Yeah. I'll have to say that Tom Brady is just the best of all time. And I don't think we'll ever see another person like that. No. He has to prove that first.
Of course.
And I think Mike Evans is just a better option for him.
And again, what's funny is Network has Godwin at 7. You and I both have him at 12. So we were like on the same page here.
That's really weird. Yeah.
Then we've got Network's number 4 and we are on the same page a lot of here. Both of our number 6s and his number 4, Tyreek Hill. I know so many people are high on Tyreek Hill, but in a PPR, it just doesn't seem like he's that valuable. Obviously, there's a gap in here. I kind of see after Tyreek Hill, there's a lot of question marks. So in between our top 5 and then our 7 through whatever, we have Tyreek Hill. And that's where I see him at. It's like, well, he's got the ability to go for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, but Patrick Mahomes has to just key on him all the time. And if Tyreek Hill is blowing past defenders, it's very possible. But again, he's going to rely on the yards and the touchdowns. He's not going to have 100 catches. If Tyreek Hill has 70 catches at the end of the year, that's a Tyreek Hill year. So we're going to see, if the Kansas City Chiefs offense can just go nuts, maybe it's going to be Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. They'll just, score 50 points a game, per team, and then the Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl for most points scored might be in jeopardy.
Usually when people predict that it's going to be a huge scoring Super Bowl, it's the opposite. But Tyreek Hill to me is the last. It's almost like a separate tier. Like you got Michael Thomas and on all the guys we already mentioned, and then Tyreek Hill. And he's the last guy on that first tier to where you really don't have a ton of questions about. He's going to be productive, and it's going to be fine, and you're going to get something good out of him. And then after that, you're right. There are a lot of question marks, and there's question marks all the way down this list. You don't know really what could happen. It could all just blow up in your face, and this whole list could be scrambled in who knows what way. But yeah, I mean, after the top 5 or 6, depending on if you got, Mike Evans in top 5. I know a lot of people don't, but yeah, I think it gets really questionable after that.
Yeah, another interesting one from Network, number 6, instead of Tyreek Hill like you and I have. He's got somebody, and now I could see this happening because you and I believe, both feel that Matt Stafford is due for a bounce-back year. He's got Kenny Golladay there sitting at number 6, right there in the middle of Tier 1 wide receivers. So, I mean, I'd love to see it. I love if Matt Stafford could come back and be one of those guys that you take in the 12th and 13th round because nobody wants him this year. If he's good, that means Kenny Golladay is going to be good. They still got Marvin Jones. They've got multiple running backs that I'm not going to trust in until they show me it can get done. So we'll see there. But yeah, Kenny Golladay, he has a shot. You've got him at 9. I've got him all the way at 14 just because I don't know. There's a lot of guys that I am higher on than him, but I could see him being anywhere in this 7 to 14 range. Like I wouldn't be mad if somebody put him, higher on their list.
Yeah. Perfectly fine where he's got him. I mean, he's got the talent and he's got a good quarterback. If they can bounce back and really connect well, it's going to be a good year for Golladay. And that's what's why he's in the top 10 for me. So I 100% have no problem having him at 6 or 7 or wherever, as long as it's somewhere in there. I mean, even 14 is not a bad spot. I understand why you might be thinking, I don't know what to think here on him because of how the Lions have been last year and even the year before. It wasn't the greatest of years, but Golladay in the top 10 for me. That's basically where I got him.
Yeah, and it's just weird because this list, like, I want to talk about every single player because the 3 of us outside of the top 5 or so have very different stances on a lot of these players. And it's hard for me to pick because, I mean, these are all going to be on our website, fantasyfuelpodcast.com/home/rankings. It's in the show notes, so you can click on a link and go there, or you can find it. It's at the top of the page when you go to fantasyfuelpodcast.com, and you click the little link at the top, and you'll find it. Don't worry. But like I said, we don't have time to talk about every single player on this list, but I want to because it's just like, okay, I go down the next player and I see you have him 10 spots below me. And I see Network's got him in between here, or there's a guy I'm looking at pretty soon. Where is he? Oh, you've got Julian Edelman at 14. Okay.
I do.
I understand.
That's a crazy.
He's going to be.
People say it's crazy.
Well, and I've got him at 36, and Network's got him at 30. Like, I just don't know what to think of that offense. He's probably going to be all of the offense in the Patriots.
That's exactly why he's 14 for me.
That could be bad, too.
It could. I mean, there could be definitely some issues with that type of thing, but I would hope that N'Keal Harry actually does something this year. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. That's why he's not anywhere close to my list. But I think Jarrett Stidham's going to have to throw somewhere. And who else? I mean, that's it, man. It's Julian Edelman all day, every day. To me, he's not quite, top 12, a number 1 guy that you can, draft and be 100% sure of. But boy, I think he's kind of close, and he's a guarantee for me to have a wide receiver 2 all year, if not at the very least a flex option.
Yeah, and that is very understandable. I am just so mind boggled at what the Patriots are doing this year. Like you said, we're going to find out probably whether it was Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. Because if Bill Belichick can make Jarrett Stidham lead the Patriots to a playoff game, like, well, okay.
Honestly, what would we do if the Patriots went to the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What would we do?
It would
honestly, that would be like the worst possible scenario. I'd just be sitting here thinking, we don't have a chance.
I don't know who I would root for.
We don't have a chance anymore. It's over.
And it would probably be the most bet on Super Bowl of all time.
I mean, I would watch that for sure. Tom Brady versus Belichick.
Oh,
Who's going to
my
win the
goodness.
Super? Oh my gosh, that'd be entertaining. I don't like either one of them,
Right.
But that would be so entertaining.
All
Man,
right.
that'd be awesome. I don't want to see it though. I really don't.
No, we definitely don't want to see it. But if it happened, we would be captivated and our eyes would be
No doubt.
fixated. And yeah, the entire country would be like, oh my God, can we finally say which one? And it'll come down to like, oh, Brady comes back and ties it up to go into overtime. And then Bill Belichick pulls some obscure rule out of the books to get something good for them in overtime. And it'll come down to a second overtime and people will, yeah, okay. Moving on.
Hold on.
Oh,
it would
no.
also start raising the questions of whether or not the NFL is rigged because it happens all the time. But I'll just leave that there for every conspiracy theorist.
All right. We
out
can
there.
talk more about that on the Jets show where we actively hate on the Patriots. All right. We got to find some more. There's another one I have at number 7 that I think is due for a huge year as long as he stays healthy, and that's Adam Thielen. You've got him top 10, and Network got him at 14. But because Justin Jefferson is not exactly solidified as a great top tier receiver, and both of the tight ends on Minnesota are just kind of whatever. I know there's a lot of people out there thinking Irv Smith's going to take a jump, and we'll get to tight ends next week, so stay tuned for that. And then there's Dalvin Cook, who we just talked about. Now this maybe even justifies my Adam Thielen ranking even more. If Dalvin Cook isn't there, yes, Alexander Mattison is okay. He's not a bad running back, but he's not Dalvin Cook, and he's not going to catch 70 balls. So who's going to catch all the balls in Minnesota?
That's true.
Adam Thielen might be that guy that could, possibly get up there and have 120 plus catches if he stays healthy for all 16 games. And bam, that is a guy that you can get in the third round probably right now. And that would be an amazing wide receiver to get in round 3.
Yeah, there's no question. I think Thielen, the reason I got him in the top 10 is because, to me, he's the only guy there I can trust in. Yeah. And I think Cousins is going to think that as well. I'm just trying to look up where Fantasy Pros had him because I thought I was kind of shocked where they had him, and I'm trying to figure it out. Just give me a second.
All right.
And we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, I'll talk about a couple other guys. We all three have Juju right there, 9, 11, and 12. So we all think he's going to have a bounce back year and could be a wide receiver 1. And I think that all depends on Big Ben. So where does Fantasy Pros have Adam Thielen?
They have him at number 31.
Wow.
31.
How?
Yeah, that's why when I did my list and I was like, okay, I want to kind of compare, to some guys that I think are actually really good. And I like Fantasy Pros a lot. But I saw Adam Thielen way down the list. I was like, what is this? I will say there's one person, the best ranking he had was 7.
Okay.
And then, oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. The best ranking was 16.
What?
So still that's low. Yeah. And the worst ranking, I think, was 67.
What?
If I'm looking at this
That
right. Give me a
can't
second.
be right.
Yep. Best was 16. Worst was 67. You got to think that he's going to be that bad? Come on. Come on.
I mean, I can't even talk. This guy, you're going to have to show me where that was. Send me the link after the show's done, because I want to see who this guy is and what other kind of rankings he's got, because that's basically saying, I think Adam Thielen's going to get hurt for half the year. Like, you can't predict that.
Can't predict injuries. Sometimes you kind of expect injuries.
Well,
and Adam
yeah.
Thielen does kind of become one of them people at times. But, I mean, come on. He's the only guy there. I can understand ranking him at 16. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But 67?
Yeah.
You know how many other players there are that are garbage? Come on, man. That's really bad. That's a bad ranking. But that's probably what threw the curve off on him, was that 167.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we got a few other guys that we've got some substantial differences in, and then we'll kind of run down a few. My number 8 is a guy almost on the same thread as Adam Thielen, because he's going to be a guy in an offense that just lost a wide receiver to another team that really doesn't have a whole lot. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't really have a whole lot, because they do have another good wide receiver that I do have ranked in the top. Well, he's 26 on my list. This guy, more like Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp. You've got him down there at 22. I'm sure it's because you hate the Rams offense, and I completely understand. Yeah. And Network has him at 16. So it's basically like we have halved, we're just jumping right down the list. He's 8 away, and then you're 6 away. So he's a little more confident. I'm really confident, basically in the same type of offense and receiver. He's going to get targets all day long. There's no Brandon Cooks there. Yes, Robert Woods is going to get some, but I really think if Cooper Kupp stays healthy, he is going to be a target monster and could be another one of those guys that you draft later that turns out to be a league winner.
Yeah, there's no question that that's a possibility. The problem I have is, like you said, the Rams offense. I just don't trust it. And so I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take Cooper Kupp. I'm going to take Robert Woods. I'm going to put them right next to each other.
I did that for somebody else.
Robert Woods would have been lower down on my list, and Cooper Kupp would have been higher. And I said, let's just put them together and be done with it and say that's it. Whatever happens. If Cooper goes off or Robert Woods does better than Kupp, I don't care. I didn't want to deal with it. I just don't like the scenario that they put me in.
No, don't like it either. Another guy I've got high. I thought I was high on him, putting him in at 10. Network has him at 8, and let's see, where do you have him? 19. So just a little off. We're talking about DJ Moore. I think he is primed to have a ton of targets thrown his way with Teddy Bridgewater there. He is going to be relied on. I don't think either you or I have much faith in Curtis Samuel or anybody else on that offense besides Christian McCaffrey. So I think DJ Moore takes a bit of a step up, and here we go again. I think Christian McCaffrey cannot duplicate what he did last year and gets overtaken a little bit by Saquon Barkley, so maybe that's where it comes in. DJ Moore gets a little more, CMC gets a little less. I know you're just shaking your head at me. That's all I got to say about that.
I'm not even going to comment on that because I don't comment on ridiculous statements. That's just it.
It's going to be a long year for you and I if you're not going to comment on what I'm saying, because we're getting ridiculous this year. All right, let's see what else we've got here. We're all 15 or 16 on Keenan Allen, so I think we'd be higher had he have a different quarterback situation, because we all are not super high on Tyrod Taylor, but like I said at least last week, Tyrod Taylor loved some Jarvis Landry. And what better wide receiver to have to take the Jarvis Landry role than Keenan Allen? If he stays healthy, he could be fine, but I'm not going to expect a ton out of him.
Yeah, Keenan Allen I think is going to be wide receiver 1-ish. But it could be floating between 1 and 2, and if it goes really bad, I could see him being just a flat-out flex option. Every week you're thinking, should I play Keenan Allen? I don't know. Or I'll give it a chance. I don't want that to happen, because that's going to be really difficult for you to sit there and say, should I play Keenan Allen? I mean, for all the years that you've had Keenan Allen, or maybe it's maybe it's a redraft league and whatever, and you're just sitting there thinking, I can't play Keenan Allen this week. I really don't want that to happen. I think he's going to be at least a floating between 1 and 2 type of wide receiver this year.
Yeah, no, that is a perfect explanation for Keenan Allen. He's a guy you're going to have in your lineup no matter what, but if you drafted him to be your wide receiver 1, you might be a little disappointed this year.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move down the list. Another guy that is very controversial going into the next season, Devontae Parker. I've got him as the back end wide receiver 2 at 24. I see you've got him at 26, and Network's got him at 28. So we're not that far off. We don't think he's going to continue ascending because obviously the quarterback situation there could change. But we saw enough from him last year to be like, okay, I guess it was a 4th or 5th year breakout season for Devontae Parker. It wasn't that normal 2nd or 3rd year. It was the 4th or 5th year. So we're fine, but it is a guy that we're probably not going to be taking where he's being drafted because I don't have that much faith in Devontae Parker.
No, I just think that he's basically the only real option on that team. And what else are you going to do if you're going to throw the ball? You got to throw it to Parker. Parker is going to be the guy for that team. And he did good last year. I mean, I was as surprised as anybody, just thinking he didn't even make my list last year. I would never even have thought of it.
We were making fun of him in the preseason.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, but he did. He performed enough to get me to put him on the list and in like a flex position. I mean, he's darn near close to being a number 2 wide receiver.
Yep.
Can I say who I have on my last number 2 wide receiver?
Sure.
At 24.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jamison Crowder. I just want to throw that out there.
Just want to throw that out there.
Know.
I thought about putting him on my list, but I think, and we'll probably talk about this much more on the Back Row Jets show because I believe we're going to be talking about some fantasy related items as it goes to that offense. But I think that Sam Darnold is going to be a great quarterback, and he's going to be a guy that spreads the ball around. So while there is a chance that any one of the wide receivers on the Jets could be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, I think it's going to get spread just a little too thin to rely on. I know you're hoping that Jamison Crowder is that guy again who gets 80 to 90 catches and 1,000 to 1,100 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns, which would probably put him right at the back end of wide receiver 2. But I'm not a Jets fan, so I didn't put him on my list.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be on anybody's list, really, but I put him really kind of right smack in the middle of my list because I actually think he's going to be really good this year. I mean, like I said, it's not going to be fantastic, but it's going to be at least, a flex option. You're going to be thinking, oh, Jamison Crowder. I think Sam Darnold's got a pretty good matchup this week, and I'll definitely play Crowder. And it really all depends on how the other receivers on the Jets do. But I think Crowder is going to be the guy he leans on the most.
Okay, I like your optimism. I would say the same things about the Eagles wide receivers if I knew what the heck was going on with any of them, because we know who Deshaun Jackson is. We're not sure what we're getting out of Jalen Reagor. Greg Ward looked like a guy Carson Wentz could rely on, but they sure are not making any of my top 36 wide receiver lists. So we'll see. Hopefully Carson proves me wrong. I'm just not going to hold my breath. All right, let's do a couple more, and then you're just going to have to go to fantasyfuelpodcast.com to get the rest of our lists because we just don't have time to talk about every single guy on here. But there are a couple more captivating ones that I'd like to shoot out. One is T.Y. Hilton. This guy has been a frustrating wide receiver to own over the years. I know you have had some frustrations with him. You have him all the way down at 28. Okay, I get it. And Network has him at 22. So, again, a back-end wide receiver 2. I've got him all the way up at 18. I think.
Yeah, I know what you think about Rivers and all that, so I get it. But that's just not me. I just don't see it. I don't.
Here's my justification, because I think T.Y. Hilton, while he may not look like it, he is a mixture of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams from the Chargers. He gets more deep balls than Keenan Allen, but he catches more balls than Mike Williams, and he gets less touchdowns than both of them probably. So we'll see how that works out. But I think it's a good fit with Phillip Rivers, and yes, I know I might have a little bit of a man crush on Phillip Rivers, even though he's getting old. I just don't know what to think of him. I guess I'm just hoping the best for a T.Y. Hilton breakout year to be like, hey, here's a guy that I don't even know what his ADP is. I was going to look that up before we got on here, but I bet you it's pretty low compared to other years. And it might be another great steal. I know I took T.Y. Hilton in a league last year. It was like, I think it was the one that you and I did together online for one of Network's leagues, and we were like, T.Y. Hilton's still there, like, I guess we can't pass him up anymore. It's like the 6th round or something. Like, so if I can get T.Y. Hilton in the 6th round, it's not a bad option, I don't think.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if the 6th round, you're getting T.Y. Hilton. I mean, the guy does have talent. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. I really just don't trust in Rivers anymore. Something about Phillip Rivers just really turns me off. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry, Rivers.
And I got to call one more out before we end this particular program, before we head on to the Back Row Jets show. I'm calling out Network just a little bit, not too much.
Okay.
But I know there's a guy on this list that he loves, and I was kind of surprised to see him as low as he was on this list. Because, somebody like that I have loved, I put him up a little higher. I put my money where my mouth is, and I'm looking, and we have them all in the same area. I've got him at 30. You've got him at 30. And Network's got him at 31. We have him higher than he does. I'm talking about Deebo Samuel. And what is going on, Network? Like, what is going on? You love some Deebo Samuel, and here he is, a back-end wide receiver 3. I thought you were going to have him so much higher on that list, but here he is, just dragging up the rear, and now I know what it is. He's making sure that he stays low on these lists, so anybody that he is referring to his leagues won't think that he's that high on him, and maybe he just falls in a couple extra rounds. That's what it is. I know. He's playing the long game. He did say not a lot of balls being passed there, and that is exactly why I don't have him very high. Probably the same reason Tom doesn't have him very high.
Right.
We're not a huge fan of the 49er passing game.
That's right.
Going forward. We're not big fans of Jimmy Garoppolo. I love Deebo. He is fun to watch. I just don't think he's going to be that good fantasy-wise.
Mm-hmm. I think that I just don't particularly trust in the 49ers at all. Here's the thing. Deebo's the only guy I trust in on that team right now. I think everybody else, I could see them being really bad. I really could. I could see that entire team just completely going into the garbage chute. And the defense, obviously, if the defense is going to be as good as it was last year, they're still going to win games.
Right.
But if that defense takes a step back, that offense is not going to take a step forward enough to make up for what the defense lost. So to me, the defense has to be as good as they were last year, or they're going to be a really bad team. I could see them going below 500.
I can't argue with you.
Disagree with
I
it,
do not
you
disagree.
Can't agree with it.
But yeah, I'm not going quite all there. Network says Jimmy Garoppolo will have 3 games under 15 pass attempts. That's not going to help anybody on the offensive side of the ball if you're playing. I mean, even Kittle. I mean, if he has 15 pass attempts, you're guessing at least 5 of those are going Kittle's way. So then there's 10 for the rest of the entire team in 3 games, if Network is correct. And I wouldn't doubt it. It would not surprise me in the least, because we know the 49ers were just itching to run the ball as many times as possible last year. Now, they do not have Matt Breida. Not that that's a huge loss. Sorry, Network. I know you liked him ending up in Miami. But it's down to Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman and Jeffrey Wilson. Tevin Coleman has not exactly been the most healthy guy in the world, and Raheem Mostert has had 1 year after ending up on like 6 different teams where he finally managed to do good. That's where we're at with the 49ers. Obviously, they had the talent to get to the big game, but I don't think fantasy-wise you're going to want to jump on this bandwagon.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. Like I said, the defense was why they made it to the Super Bowl. There's no other question in my mind. They would not have done it if they would have had just an above-average defense. Their defense was fantastic. Yeah. You look at some of their games last year, and the stats of really good offensive teams was terrible. I mean, I think even the Packers they destroyed them. A horrible game for the Packers offensively because that defense was amazing. I'm not going to compare them to the Jets back in the days where we had Revis, but they were pretty good.
Right. All right. Well, if you want to see anybody else on our list, please, again, visit fantasyfuelpodcast.com/home/rankings, or there'll be a link direct in there. You can give us on Twitter @fantasyfuel. We don't mind the questions. We love to answer them for you, or facebook.com/fantasyfuel. So we didn't talk about a few guys, and that's where you're going to have to go to the website and figure them out. We didn't talk about the Bengals wide receivers. That's an interesting one. Do we think Joe Burrow's going to be able to keep up with all their guys there? We didn't talk about the some of the guys that got traded. So we're going to have to go ahead and let you guys find that out for yourselves, or ask us. And another good way to ask us is through our Discord that we just started. So if you'd like that, that'll also be in the links. Again, there'll be links all over the place. We'll promote that on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else in our show notes. It'll be everywhere, so we will be accessible for you during the season at any given point. We might not respond the instant you ask us a question, but we will certainly respond very, very quickly. So again, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being on Twitch Network. I saw you resubbed on our Twitch earlier. I didn't mention it until now, but we appreciate that's 2 months in a row since we started as an affiliate on Twitch. So we appreciate all that good stuff. Any last words, Senor Tuttle?
I'm good. Let's hit the road.
All right. Well, we are on to the Back Row Jets show, and we will see you next week with tight end rankings. That should be a blast.